Well, before we get going, as the folks get this set up, I want to first thank and have us applaud Mike Patrick and the MadPal team for the 2-day session. Thank you very much. Excellent event. A lot of good speakers, a lot of good information. I will also say I don't attend many conferences at this point, but the reason I attended this one is because it is for senior leaders in our field, and I think it's important that we do continue these conversations together. I'm actually going to move this one just so I don't pull a Dick Van Dyke and go tear it. I'm older. Do you guys know who Dick Van Dyke is? And whether? All right. Just thought I'd check. Yes, as you can see by this little C here, I was the one person that raised my hand earlier this morning about having a C-level title. So I am the Chief Experience Officer for Bottomline Technologies. I'll get into what Bottomline Technologies is shortly, but what I'm responsible for is I'm responsible for all of the UX, and you can define that any way you want, research, design, visual design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All UI development, all innovation, mobile teams, non-product creative teams, et cetera, et cetera. And, well, we'll just get going. Oh, I forgot. Hang on. So what I'd like to do, hold on. I didn't expect the room to be so wide. So, only passionate user experience professionals and design professionals say cheese. I know there's more passionate. Okay. Yeah. See, this is longer. You need a big breath there. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's from my own. Thank you very much. That's all this slide is for. So. See, everybody thought I was going to go, oh, it's about moving cheese and the smartphone technologies, right? No. I'm much more simple than that. My team always makes fun of me because what I always do is I have some slide in there that's supposed to remind me of something. I have this infamous slide that we use internally that is like, hey, dummy, don't forget to record the WebEx meeting before you start going through the meeting. So anyway. Another quick warning. I've learned this over the last couple of weeks, I would say. If you have a really dry sense of humor and you decide that you're going to pitch a talk to the MadPal group, be really careful what you name your talk, because I named it something like, where's the bar? No, not that bar. And guess what happened? I ended up right before the bar. I'm sure that's not a coincidence, and somehow. So I'm already working on another title, like "Where's the free Porsche?" or something of that nature. So keep in mind that I've caught on. All right. So where's the bar? How do financial services and design avoid lowering the bar of the quality of experiences? So we'll jump right in. Now, this is where I'll explain a little bit about what we do. So what Bottomline Technologies does is we build systems for you guys, meaning all financial services. So and everything's at an enterprise level. Everything we do is for how businesses pay and get paid. We don't do any consumer anything. So everything we do is big, hairy, lots of people, trillions of dollars of transactions. We have offices in Geneva and Tel Aviv and the UK, and we're spread all over the place. So if you ever want to talk financial messaging and Swift services, I got products for you guys, right? So with that in mind, as I go through this, that's the lens that I look through. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about will be translatable for everybody else, but I might have examples that pertain to my particular group, in my particular markets. So first of all, if I ask our product people, and by our product people, I don't mean just Bottomline people, but anybody that deals with enterprise level, business to business, commercial level banking, or any financial service, and I say, where's the bar and how are we doing? They're going to go, oh man, we're doing really good. The new thing of ISO 20022 is coming out. Anybody know what that is? All right, different crowd. So if I was in the crowd that I usually deal with, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's really, really good. And they're going to tell me, this is the bar and we're doing awesome. And I go, hold on a second, this is the bar. And this is what we're doing, right? We are in fact clearing the bar. So awesome. The question is, what bar exactly are we clearing? And let's be really, really transparent about that. So Stephen mentioned earlier this morning, I can't remember the word he used, but he used the word about just being transparent, honest, etc. So when I work with our groups, I use slides like this and terminology like this. I'm a little careful about it. Yes, I do have a C-level title, but that only gets me so far because everybody can just ignore me and go away. So that's the secret of having a C-level title. It doesn't mean people go, oh, and then they go back to doing whatever they're going to do, right? And then I have to chase them around. So anyway, so how do we get there? Like, if we do want to be here and we are over there, what exactly is going to get us there? But also the question is, which I'll start with, is why? Like, why are we there and not here? So this is, again, back to the transparency stuff. So why? What are the gravitational pulls? Like, what just keeps everything being pulled down? This is where, in the B2B business space, the payment space, is no different than what you guys deal with it. Any consumer, any investments, any of that. It's going to be the same stuff. First of all, you have things like this. So there's the ISO 20022. That's how it's actually written. I don't know why people say 20022, but that's what people call it. Something called CHAPS payments, BACS payments, open banking. This is all the nomenclature of how money moves around the world. Anybody even recognize any of this stuff? All right. ACH, you probably know, right? Yeah, so that's the one that most people know. I won't try to explain all the rest of them. You don't really want to know. But, so you have industrial complexity, right? There's just subject matter industry complexity. It is what it is. We're not going to change that. It's there for various reasons. We won't get into why. And then you have this world, this swirling world of regulatory security and all these other things. We all deal with this. Now, the other thing about this is a lot of times we complain about this. This is good, right? We can say it's like, oh, it's problematic. It's like, well, it's good. Like, it's good that if I think I paid $5,000, found its way to the end state, right? Or that money laundering is not going on, or all these other things that go on. It can get overburdensome, and it's been mentioned several times today that if you, I apologize, but I forget who mentioned it this morning, if you invite the security guy to your original planning meeting, and you invite the law people, the lawyers and the legal people into your original planning meeting, it goes much, much better, right? We cut down a lot of things. The example of, oh, here's 48 fields to fill out for the account opening. So Lori, who is no relation to me, but we happen to pronounce her last name the same way, she actually was a Bottomline employee for a little while. So that account opening product that she was talking about, we sat with a law firm, and we got that from 48 to 6 to 4. We handed it to banks, because it's a white label product, and it went from 4 to 6 to 48 again. It was like, okay. So anyway, this is there. We have to recognize it. Okay, so we'll move on. So now we have industrial complexity, regulations, and then we get into this kind of thing. This is my world from a persona perspective. So it was a great persona exercise earlier today. In the business-to-business space, this is only part of it. Just, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't want to put more on here because I didn't want to take the time to keep going through all our files. So you have all these various folks. They all have different responsibilities. Now, the other cut to this, which I'm not going to illustrate in here, is it depends on how big your business is. If you're a micro business and you're a bookkeeper, you have a different responsibility set than if you're a $2 billion a year business. First of all, you don't call them bookkeepers in a $2 billion business. So there's all kinds of complexity around here. So we add that to the long list of the equation being presented. And this is one of my favorites. In the banking space, there's essentially been 2,000 years to think of every possible use case you can imagine, right? In new industries, you don't really do this because if you're breaking into industries, you start building all these use cases. We inherit all these use cases. So somebody, again, I forget who mentioned earlier today that banking's been around for a couple hundred years. Banking's been around for a couple thousand years, right? So as you start doing this, and this was an actual requirement that we had to work through, the ability to schedule a payment to be sent from Hawaii to Tokyo on a Friday afternoon at year's end, right? So you have Dateline, you have weekends, You potentially have a holiday. You have all kinds of things in there. Original payments being made in US dollars. Payment has to be delivered in yen. The originator is 10 hours with a contract FX rate, if you happen to know what that stuff is. So, and everybody's like, oh, we'll solve this. Spend 2 months on this. It's like, we spend 2 months on an edge case. What about the thing that everybody does? Why don't we put so much time into that, right? So at any rate, we'll add that to the equation. So we have industrial complexity, regulations, persona complexity, and just usage complexity, right? We all deal with that. You can fill in any of those words with whatever industry you happen to work on, and it's all there. But really what I want to talk about is that's not going to go away. We can influence that. We're not creating new payment types. We have to deal with that kind of stuff. The edge cases are what they are. We have to take care of it, right? So instead, I think we have a more fundamental problem that we have to look at, which is this. How do computers work? Or I should say, this is how computers work, right? You have directories and you have files. Rudimentary structure of computer science, right? Yes, you can go further down in there. We're not going to get into bits and bytes. But this construct, we got much, much better because we made the folders look better. We didn't change anything, right? So the bar is still pretty low, right? But it's like, oh yeah, that's awesome, that's awesome. It's like, is it really? But if you take that and you start building on it and you come up with things like this and you become, and I'm sure we've all designed these things, advanced searches. Oh, this is much, much better. Oh, wait, this one's much better. It's like, Jesus, really? They're both terrible. But they're both sitting on top of that fundamental construct of you have directories and files. And I need to find stuff in there. And if you really want to go further down in, the directory files sit on tables, and the tables, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we get really happy about, oh, we cleared this bar, we did much better. Then there's a mobile version of it. It's like, okay, that's better. Well, how's it better? It's cleaner, it's more attractive. It's not really better, right? So we're like inching the bar up. We're hardly doing anything. I'm very proud of this one because when I joined Bottomline, this is what I inherited. This is one of our products. That's not running, is it? That videotape's not right. I didn't. So, this was one of our products. I won't go through all of it because the main thing I want to show you is it goes, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes. This is real, by the way. This is not me just playing with Photoshop. But, you know, it gets better because that's 1 of 4. So you keep going, right? Well, why is it this way? Well, it's there because this is a table that's reflecting the database that's put in some kind of file directory structure, and we have just plopped it in front of somebody's face. And somehow that's considered good, right? We're still pivoting off of how computer science works, not humans work, not how humans think about things. We have forced everybody to kind of fall into the construct of understanding computer work. So when I show this to any audience, including my own internal audience, I get a lot of comments, like scroll much, right? You know, look at the font, you know, awesome borders, and then there's always the, well, that just sucks, right? So we get that a lot too. But, so then we go off and solve those, right? So we do things like make the folders look better. We sit in, we can spend hours and hours and days and weeks doing advanced search design, or we can just make the tables or the grids look much better. Really? We're still not really making any progress. We're still doing this. So who's that on? That's not security's problem. That's not product's problem. That's not the persona's problem. That's our problem, right? So we're not really doing a whole lot. Challenging us, right? So where should it be, right? First of all, after I load you up with that, I don't have an answer for you. I have a script, a little bit. I can tell you what we're doing, but there's no prescription I can give you. But the challenge that I presented to our group, and I've been presenting to other groups, is let's at least recognize what's holding the bar down. Like, yeah, we can keep pointing all the complexity of this, that, and the other. We're holding it down too, right? And we're holding it down based on a bunch of different things. Computer science, that's all well and nice. Technology is advancing extremely fast. Is machine learning real? Is artificial intelligence real? It's getting real, right? So we start looking at this. So I just want to share what we're doing. Holistic experiences that, when encountered, are more human and helpful. This I rolled out, we rolled out about 12, maybe 18 months ago now, and we're actually getting progress. So let me break it down for you, what it actually means. Holistic. I don't really need to explain this to you guys. If I'm talking to product people, I spend probably quite a bit of time on this. Speaking with UX designers, I don't spend a whole lot of time on this. You know, it's just the basic of, hey, you're working on the product. That's awesome. To send out alerts? Yes. How many? You know, a couple. What's a couple? 20. In what time period? Every day. It's like, great. What do they say? Nothing anybody can read, right? So we started looking at the holistic experience from that perspective, but then there's also, how did I sign up for it? How did I discover you even had a product? How do I pay for your product? How do I get support in your product? All the stuff that you guys know, right? So that's what I mean by holistic. The when encountered part, we've been spending a lot of time on this. This is not easy either. From the perspective of, the analogy I use quite a bit is, this is a nice room. I don't see any plumbing or wires on the outside of the room. And generally we go, well, that would be stupid. Well, it would be, except as most enterprise software goes, we expose the wires all day long, right? Well, where's the electricity come from? I don't know. I don't really care. I don't need to know. The problem I'm trying to solve in a room like this or whatever is I'm not sitting in the dark, right? I don't need to know who generates the power, how it gets to me, what transformer it goes through, blah, 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 blah. But in the enterprise world specifically, we put all of that burden on some end user at some level, right? So what we're doing more and more is just pushing this into the background. You don't need to do this. There's been several examples today about, oh, you know, you have to fill out, well, go back to the, why do you fill out 48 bits of information? Mostly because, you know, we're lazy. Because I already have that information. I just didn't bother looking for it. So what we're doing a lot is we're just constantly challenging ourselves. Why are we asking this question? Why are we putting this in front of somebody? Why is this in the table? What data does that actually represent? Does anybody care about that? Get it away, get it off, get it away, get it off, right? So we're just constantly doing that. I guess I said something right. The light came on. Human and helpful. So there's been many conversations today and many things that have gone on today that has referred to this. We are spending a lot of time here. The way we think about this is human and helpful from the perspective of how are things interacting. So we have a bunch of initiatives like many other companies around personalization, around getting to know your customer, et cetera. The analogy, we essentially have broken it into two phases. Get to know you, act like I know you, right? Get to know you is data collection, behavioral identity, all the other things. Like, well, that's good information, but I don't do anything about it. It still doesn't matter. So there's several, specifically MadPal folks that I've known for a couple of years. There's some other people I've met in the last 48 hours. At this point, I know something about you. So, you know, Mike Holly's sitting here, right? So Mike and I have known each other 8 or 9 years. When we see each other, I don't go, hi, I'm Brian. I work at Bottomline. Oh, it's like you pick up where you left off, right? Most of the technology we work with every day is, who are you? So over there in my little black backpack, or wherever I put it, is a laptop, which is in a padded little place. Never gets too hot, doesn't get cold, doesn't get wet, doesn't get lost, et cetera, et cetera. In there is the laptop. It gets coddled like a baby, probably better than I took care of my own baby back in the time. But every single time I open it, it goes, who are you? What do you want? You sure? Am I allowed to give you that information? It's like, really? It's like, how many hours a day do we spend together? And you still act like you've never met me before in your life, right? This is just silly. So as we're going about this, that's the kind of thing. And it starts getting into things like voice and tone, just the general interactive principles. Is there just a more human way? That's where, from earlier today about the voice interaction, the multimodals, those types of things. That's what we're looking at an enterprise scale, which is very challenging because everyone in the world says, oh, those folks don't care. It's like, wait a minute. So if it's a job that I have and I'm interacting with the software all day long, somehow that doesn't matter. But if it's a consumer product, it does matter. I check it once a month. Like, these people are in this 10 hours a day. There's something I can do to make this better for them. The helpful part, in the same way, right? If I know you keep doing this, let me do it for you. Don't just ask me to do it yet again. And don't ask me, hey, I see you do this a lot, so I brought up the widget. It's like, how about if you just do it for me? It's like, you're a freaking computer. It's like, do the math. Like, I do this, do the math for me. Don't ask me to do this for you, right? Just over and over and over again. So have we solved the world with this? No. But it has made a significant change in how we approach our work. The way I hold the teams and the way we hold each other accountable is every time a new design gets put in front of me or the team for critiques, what have you done to hit these highlights? If the answer is nothing, go back. And if the answer is they won't let me, who's they, right? Oh, security. Was security involved in the original conversation? No. That's not security's problem. That's our problem, right? There's some crazy edge case. It's like, well, whose edge case is it? Is it really something for us to worry about? This has been a challenge to get this implemented because everybody reverts back to the gravitational pulls and the muscle memory that everybody has always known. And we've really kind of pushed this hard. And we're getting traction, and we're getting more traction, and we're starting to see the results of that. But it's taken a while, right? But it really has come down to, and this isn't about whether I have a title or not a title or anything else. It is just about we've just wrapped our head around this and just held each other accountable for it, and we just move forward with it, right? So we've gone from basically this. I think we're about here, right? So we're doing better. We're still not here, which is where we're trying to get to, right? Now, we've had a lot of help along the way, and I thought about making more of an analogy, so I guess I will. There's a pole involved now, right? So I'm not just leaping, I actually have some help. So we're really working hard to any of the more advanced technologies, we're leveraging that stuff. Because when you start thinking about, well, the reason that we have advanced filters is because I can't just type in what I want. We can't. We all use Google. It's like, and of course my tech guys love it when I say that. Well, it's not that easy. It's like, oh, I know it's not that easy. But we're working on that kind of stuff. Like, what can we leverage now? It came up yesterday when the side conversations. If we keep doing technology the way we were and trying to solve the problems the way we were, we will not do anything different, right? There's many different ways to do this, so leverage what you have available to you. So again, holistic experiences that when encountered are more human and helpful. We talk about this all the time. We now have posters. My designers made visual posters out of it. It gets printed around. There's a requirement sheet that the UX guys made that it basically, I kind of hate the whole checkbox thing, but we didn't have another way to do it, is each feature functionality, they have to mark, did I include it or not? If so, how, right? And then we just share that and share that and share that. Slow going, but it's getting there, right? So kind of back to yes, there's all kinds of challenges, but we're imposing as much a challenge to this as any other group. And we're not off the hook, right? So if we really want the bar up high, that's up to us. That's not, some other group's not going to do that for us. Questions?
Question time. Well, coincidentally or not, and I don't think it is, our first two questions actually reference the bar.
Geez, I knew that was coming.
Number one.
It is set up outside. They were setting it up as I walked in, so.
Who's setting the bar? The internal team driving innovation, customers, or the industry?
Well, I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer who asked that question. Do you mean us or in general?
I'm thinking it's in general.
Okay. The people who should not be setting the bar are the customers. That's another turn we had to make, is in terms of we build very large pieces of software for big customers who tell us what they want. We're very customer focused, and that ends up meaning, hey, I would say brand X, because actually many of the organizations that you work for are our customers, will say, we want to do this, that, and the other, and historically we would go do this, that, and the other, and instead we go, nah, what do you want? Like, why? So we're trying to move away from the just customer driven, and we actually have a kind of turn of phrase that we use of your trusted innovation partner. Let us do this on your behalf because we're doing the research, we're doing some other things. So we look at, there's a balance there. There's a tug of war between, hey, I found this cool thing from a technological standpoint, and then you can go out looking for a problem to whack with it, which doesn't really work all that well. But if you start understanding what the tools and technologies are you have available, then you start approaching the problems, you go, oh, I have a new way to solve that. Somebody had a graphic earlier today where they had a couple different cross points and innovations in the middle. So that's another way we look at it as well.
And our final question, what do you think went wrong with Facebook's Libra?
Because I'm the payments guy? All right. So, so you don't want to drink for another hour and a half, right? So I think there's a couple of things that went on. So cryptocurrency, I'm going to address the cryptocurrency in general. The primary problem with cryptocurrency is they felt as though there's no reason for regulation. There's a reason for regulation. Again, that's not a bad thing. Just like it's not a bad thing to have some kind of compliance and regulatory things in healthcare. It's like, oh, you say you're a doctor? Yeah, sure. Go ahead and cut something for me. It's like, you don't do that stuff, right? So in the payment, it's kind of the same way. So anyway, so the cryptocurrency thing, and that's related to something bigger. Everybody hates the banks, right?
Yeah.
They do, right? So, I mean, it is what it is. But what was the big movement 6-7 years ago? Occupy. Was it Occupy? Yeah, and everybody's like, oh, we're not going to use banks. It's like, try it, find out. It's like, there's a reason they exist, and it's not bad news. There's some kind of safety net. If somebody steals all your money out of a bank, you kind of have some safety net. So as it starts going to these cryptocurrencies, none of that's there. If you start looking at Libra, they're trying to find kind of another pathway into this, but it takes the banks to actually agree for this stuff to work so that somehow the money can get reconciled. And there's just another one of those that it's easy to kind of wave your hand and go, oh, this is too complicated. It's like, it's complicated for a reason, right? It's complicated for our own safety. Somewhat related to this, we sell a product in something called financial messaging, which is how banks reconcile each other every 24 hours. Nobody thinks about this stuff. Oh, I just give you a check. It's like, what happened? Like there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. Without the banks actually agreeing that this is a pathway and a set of rails to make this work, it doesn't work. And Mr. Zuckerberg can talk as much as he wants in circles in front of Congress. It doesn't change that. There's just certain payment types that are just not going away, at least not for a while, not until they actually get some kind of safety net around them.
Thank you.
All right.